What's up, guys? It's Will with King's Cards. So in the last video that I posted, which was my Mitsurugi Raizio deck profile from the remote regional, I said that I wanted to post a video on what I thought was the best budget deck in the format, and I am here today to go ahead and post that. Now, as you'll go ahead and see, like just looking at the list that you can see off the bat, this is not just 3 structure decks. I don't think this deck is very good with just 3 structure decks. I think it's fine to play, but for adding an extra $35, $40, $45, somewhere in that general price range, you can make this deck much better. Now, I'm not going to go over these cards one by one and tell you what they do. If you're interested in playing this deck, I'm pretty sure that you already know what these cards do and you have like a general understanding of the deck. But I just wanted to show like a sample list. You know, if you don't have the Primite cards, which I completely understand not wanting to pay the money for those, especially in a deck that putting that amount of money into for it still not to be, you know, tier 1 best deck of the format is, you know, a bit of a reach. So I will go over the list and my choices of everything that I wanted to play, so to go ahead and get into that. We're playing 3 Sage. This is the best 1-card starter in your deck, so you kind of want to max that out. 3 Maiden. This is also an incredible 1-card starter, but at the same time it is also the best extender in the deck in my eyes, especially when you pair Sage with Maiden. It's just an absolutely broken combo that plays through so many hand traps. Only 2 copies of the Seahorse. My reasoning behind 2 of this is it is a 1-card full starter, so I had it at 2 just to keep our starter ratios fine. You can go and do the math on these starters. It makes good sense. But also, I didn't want to cut it down to 1 just because then it starts to mess with the math. I didn't want to play it at 3 because then we're starting to get into the territory where we have 9 normal summons. And when you have 9 normal summons and your spirit doesn't resolve, you're going to start opening up some clunky hands. This card's absolutely phenomenal, and since you're playing this card, you do have the availability with your level 1 tuners. This is a level 4 tuner and a Blue Eyes White Dragon to hard make the Spirit Ultimate Dragon, which is something that does come up when you're playing 2 of the Blue Eyes White Dragon. I want to play 1 of this, but you can't because if you open it, it makes your combos really bad. You just can't play 3 of this. I know the purists will argue with that, but that's okay. We're going to be playing triple copies of Prayers. This is the most broken card in the deck. This card's absolutely insane. This card just did so much for the archetype, it just completely changed the way that this deck plays altogether. Then we're playing three copies of Saga. Some people won't agree with this, but I think this card is just a fantastic extender, especially for what it does. And also another reason for playing 3 of this is we're playing 3 copies of Bingo Machine Go, which strangely was not in the structure deck, but you can go get a playset of these on TCG Player right now for about 50 cents. Thanks to that Rarity Collection 2 reprint. So when you play 3 of this, you can just go Bingo Machine and just reveal 3 copies of this, and you can always have access to an extender or a starter in the form of Prayers. And then, of course, the 1 Mausoleum, the 1 True Light, and then I am opting to main deck the Trap card. I know, me personally, I'm not a fan of main decking in archetype Trap cards because they're normally only ever good going first with, you know, there's a couple of exceptions in the game. But this is one of those cards that is really only good going first, but it also is really good in a grind game. But this card just gives your inboard that extra layer of interruption that it really needs. So I am just opting to play the 1 copy of this. Then, given the hand traps that were in the structure deck, we're just going to max out on those with 3 Ash, 3 Valor, especially Valor because Valor is like hyper searchable in this deck. Triple copies of Nib, and then triple copies of Imperm. You just want to max out on these hand traps. These are some of the best hand traps in the format that do not have Mulch Army in their name. And then the 1 copy of Called By, which is also in the structure deck, which is a nice include. Now, for the cards that were non-engine cards that we're playing that were not included in the structure deck, we're going to be playing the 1 copy of Magnamut. This card's really cool because it serves as interruption that can grab another piece of interruption, especially against those Fiendsmith decks, or it can serve as interruption that can go search full combo. So I really do like the inclusion of Magnamut in this deck. Druid's Worm is just also that secondary card. I know Druid's Worm, the last time that I checked, is sitting somewhere around $15. So if you don't want to spend the money for Druid's Worm, or you don't have a Druid's Worm, you can replace this with Baldrake. Now there is a significant power decrease when you're playing Baldrake over Druid's Worm, especially when going second. But it's still just a fine option. You know, the difference in price makes up there. Then we're playing triple copies of Talents. The reason that I chose Talents, even though these are $10 a piece, I think it's perfectly fine to play triple copies of Talents. This deck plays through the 1-for-1 trade hand traps of Ash, Valor, Imperm so well. that you can use talents to just rip apart their hand and get the actual like real hand traps out of their hand at a certain point. So I really do like playing this card. It is, in my opinion, the best card of the format, going first, going second. Just incredible card. And then moving down to the extra deck, I'm playing 2 copies of Spirit. I want to get away with playing one of this, but I don't think you can. I think you need to play 2 copies of this. You do need 2 for the grind game, and then like if your first one gets interrupted, you do want to have access to get back into it on the following turn. We're playing the 1 copy of Anima, so this deck does lack removal options, given why I'm playing Majesty in the main deck. And you're playing Nib, which getting over a big Nib token can be a little difficult at times. So having Anima in your deck to link off those link 1s and just get rid of the token the easy way is also a really good option. And then to pair with the Anima, we're playing the SP Little Knight. If you don't have an SP Little Knight, or you don't want to upgrade your deck with an SP Little Knight, you can just make it the 2nd copy of Hieratic Seals, and that's perfectly fine. Hieratic Seals is a great card, especially in this deck. It does a lot. And then, of course, we're playing the triple copies of Spirit Dragon. I think playing 3 copies of this is fine. I know some people are starting to go down to 2, but this deck is it's hyper-focused on making the Spirit Dragon. So playing 3 of this is perfectly fine. We're playing the 1 Azure Silver Dragon. I really do like this card. It's really good when you're going first into the Raziel Mitsurugi deck or going first into the Raziel Fiendsmith deck, because their options are so limited, and being able to get rid of this card and then protecting your Spirit Ultimate Dragon with this card just makes it even better. This was not included in the structure deck, but it was a common in Supreme Darkness, so you should have one of these laying around. If you don't, just check on the, people leave their bulk hanging around at locals. Just go look through those, and you should be able to find one of these. The reason that we're playing this card is that the structure deck just did not come with options for back row removal outside of the trap card. And this card gives you a really good way to start clearing out back row during your opponent's turn when they set it, just being able to get rid of Raziel Cross, being able to, in the mirror match especially, the person who can keep True Light established and keep it established the longest is normally the person who wins the game. And then when it is destroyed, you can just target a spell or trap in your graveyard and set it, but it can't be activated unless you control a normal monster, but that's actually a very easy thing to do. So just go in and resetting Prayers to have follow-up, setting Saga to have more follow-up, Imperms, Majesty, Talent, Called By, whatever it is that you need, and then even post-side, this card comes up a lot, being able to reset some of these power cards down here. It's really, really good. And then we're playing 2 copies of the Spirit Ultimate Dragon. I didn't feel comfortable playing just one of this, because I did notice when I was playing this deck and testing it a lot, that you often get into a grind game with this deck, and you're going to want the 2nd copy of this, because at a certain point, you're just not getting value off of your Spirit Dragon when you're tributing it to summon from the extra deck. So you just wanted to have the 2nd copy of this to just keep having better cards to summon instead of just summoning like Azurize or Light Sword. And then I am playing the small fusion package. I do think these cards are really good, especially the Tyrant Dragon. So Tyrant Dragon just helps you clear through big fields really easily. I have made the Twin Burst Dragon one time. This card actually is really good on the field. It's a good way to get rid of the Detonator and break the Twins of the Eclipse loop when they have it. But this card is harder to make because you have to have the Saga already set up in the graveyard and then double Blue Eyes, and then you can make it that way. So it is a little bit more difficult to make this card. But Tyrant Dragon is absolutely insane, especially post-side deck. When you go first, if there's some reason that you can't go for game, you can make this card, and then you can use a secondary effect. Once per turn, at the end of the damage step, this card battled, you can target a trap in your graveyard, set it your spell and trap zone, so you can just reset these Solemn Strikes, reset Infinite Impermanence, reset Majesty. And it's kind of like the thing with this deck. You just want to keep looping your resources over and over again and take them into the deep waters and just drown them. So I really do like that with this deck. It just has a lot of recursion options, and every single turn, especially with True Light, you're always applying pressure, you're always getting your resources back. So taking advantage of that just by playing the good cards in your extra deck, they're going to allow you to keep those resource loops going. It's really strong. Then for the side deck, so none of these cards were included in the structure deck, but I tried to make the side deck as cheap as possible with what we have. 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. This card you just have to play this card in the current format. Kind of sucks because it does make deck building theory a little bit stale when it comes to the side deck, because I'm pretty sure anybody who has built a side deck in this current format, one of the first things oh, gotta throw Lancia in. And it's even getting that point now with Drolls because of the Mitsurugi Raziel deck. But I chose Droll because I just think that it's a good hand trap in general against the Mitsurugi Raziel deck. But this card is also really good when you're going first. You can side this in against Raziel Fiendsmith. And if you set up any kind of board with at least 2 interruptions and then back it up with a Droll and Lockbird, that board becomes like significantly harder to break for the Raziel Fiendsmith deck or the Mitsurugi Raziel deck. So I do think this card is really good. Triple copies of Phantasme. This is for the Malice and the Raziel Fiendsmith. I think this card's absolutely phenomenal. It just helps you draw into your side deck cards, draw into some more of your hand traps if needed to get to your Bestials. You can even search it off of Magnamut. So this card is absolutely phenomenal. I really do like it a lot. Triple copies of Burial from a Different Dimension. I do not feel comfortable going to a tournament right now, and the only thing that I have in my side deck for Malice is just Lancia, because at that point you're basically playing the old logic of the shifter game, which is you're playing the 33% game, and I don't like doing that. So just having like 6 cards that inherently go into Malice really well is makes me feel a little bit more comfortable with the current format. And Burial is not a one card that answers everything, but when you're going second, you ideally want to hand trap them once, or if you have like an Imperm, you can save the Imperm for the Nightmare Griffin, and then you can, when they go GWC06, summon back the White Binder, and then White Binder, target 3 in their grave. Normally it's going to be like the White Rabbit, Heart's Cryptor, or Red Ransom. When they banish them and then activate their effects, then you chain the Burial, put them back in the graveyard, and they've just lost resources that way. So I do think this card is really good, but, we can't afford cards, if we're playing like this is roughly like a $75 budget deck. We're not affording Fuvalos, we're not affording Meows, so we have to take what we can get. Shout out to Steven Santoli for being the guy who's really just carrying this card on his back, trying to get it through the format and prove that it's good. Which I do like the card. I think it's a fine card. And then last, we're playing triple copies of Solemn Strike. This can be Strike, this can be Judgment. Me personally, I like Strike over Judgment. I think Strike is a really, really strong card right now. This is the deck list. There's a couple of changes you can make. If you've got a playset of Thrust and a D-Barrier and a Sanctum, you can replace the Solemn Strikes, maybe some of the Phantasmes, and put those in so you can have better options when you're going first. Maybe Ultimate Slayers is something because maybe at your locals you're playing against a lot more Raziel Fiendsmith and you want those Ultimate Slayers. Even Metaltronus is a good card for this deck because Blue Eyes just so happens to be a light monster with 3,000 attack, which matches up really well with Detonator. Same thing with Nib. So you do have options in this deck. But yeah, guys, so this is going to be for the deck profile. Give me a couple more days. I'm going to try and post some matches that I'm playing with this deck on DB. And then I'm going to be taking this deck just the way that it sits right here to a regional in either a week or two. I'm not exactly sure which regional it is that I want to play this deck at yet. But I'll definitely show you the profile and how things went after that. All right, guys, y'all have a good one. Stay safe.